Good morning and welcome to the mandatory staff meeting. Today is April the 14th, 2009. We're going to start with the course competency. This is also part of the safety. The first three things are dealing with safety. The course competency checklist, you do have an attached there. If you turn to that, everyone upon hire should be reviewed this information. Also, for the home health aide certification class, we review this information. We're going to run down it real quick. Temperature, how to take a pulse and respiration, give a bed bath, sponge tub or shower bath, how to shampoo someone's hair in bed, shampooing their hair at a sink or in a tub, nail care, skin care, back rub, oral hygiene, how to use a urinal, how to use a bedpan, transfer techniques, how to safely ambulate someone, how to go through range of motion exercises, which includes passive and active range of motion, how to reposition someone, and how to make an occupied bed. Those are the 17 steps that we use to qualify someone in their home health aide certification. If there's something that you guys are not familiar with, now, all of you that have been through the class, you know that we went over these. But if there's something that you're not familiar with, you might need further instruction on, or you may be just are feeling like you need more teaching in one of those areas. Give the office a call, let us know. We'll schedule a time when we can get together to go over those. I wanted to just run down those briefly, the core competencies. Number 2, safety. As part of our policies that we're revising, there's certain areas that we specifically need to cover. Number 1 here, A, is fire safety. You know, who keeps patients safe in the homes? You do. What you do is extremely important in preventing fires. You need to be observant whenever you're in the home, looking for the smoke detectors, making sure that the batteries are in there, maybe that they work, check them. Are there fire escape routes in the houses? A lot of the houses we go into, they have stuff stacked up to the ceiling in front of doors. That's not a good thing. How are they going to get out if there's a problem? Electrical blankets. Not good ideas to be using. Those can cause fires. Heating pads. Oxygen therapy. Anyone that has oxygen in the home, no smoking in the home, no candles, no open flames. Very important. Space heaters. A lot of this stuff is just common sense. Space heaters. You need to make sure that they're a certain distance away from flammable materials. Cooking safety. The handles on pots and pans. Making sure that the patient's not getting up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, turning the burners on the stove and leaving them on. Those are things that are really important for you to be observing for. If you notice them, you got to be bringing that information to the office. And then any flammable liquids that are in the home. B, electrical safety. Looking at extension cords, electrical cords, overloaded circuits, electrical outlets. Making sure there's not, 20 things plugged into 2 receptacles. They keep splitting it. Light bulbs or grounding of electrical appliances. Making sure that there's no bare wires. Very important. There's been times when that's been brought to the office's attention. We've went out, we've addressed those problems right away. I would rather lose a case than to wake up the next day and have a patient's name in the obituary because something didn't work in a patient's home. The home health aide didn't report it to the office. The next day there was a fire that night, and the patient's gone. C, environmental and mobility safety. This is the biggest thing I need you all to be aware of. When you're in a patient's home, it is your responsibility to make sure that they stay off the floor. And I'll say that again. It is your responsibility to make sure that your patient stays off the floor. 1 out of every 3 people over the age of 65 this year will fall. That's the statistic. 33% will fall. And what happens is the fall isn't the worst part. It's when they land. It's when they break their hip or when they hit their head. And if they hit their head, there's an 80% mortality when they hit their head on something because the bones in their neck are a little bit weaker. They're older. When they hit their head, their bones break in their neck and it cuts their spinal cord. So they end up becoming a quadriplegic. Or they end up hitting their head and down the road they have a slow bleed inside of their head and it gives them a stroke. Sometimes they can recover from that. Most of the time, they can't. When your patients are up walking, when they're supposed to be using a wheelchair, you make sure they're using a wheelchair. If they're in the bathroom and you step outside to make sure that, give them a little bit of privacy, you make sure you're right outside that door. Because if you hear them start to get up, you better be in that door before they can stand up and go over onto their head. Making sure that they're using their walker when they're supposed to be using their walker. Their exits and passageways need to be clear. Nothing laying on the steps or on the floor that they can trip over. Making sure they have adequate shoes. Using handrails, holding on to furniture and walls as they're up walking. How to go up and down steps safely. These are things that you can teach patients. You all know how to do them, you do them yourself. Most of it's just common sense. Adequate lighting in the home. An emergency medical plan and a disaster plan. And most of the patients, if they don't already have them, what you could suggest is the emergency life call button. And most of them, the state will pay for them. If not, it's a very low monthly fee that they can pay. And it's a lot cheaper than having a home health aide spend the night every night. Just get one of those buttons where if they have a problem 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they push it. It can call the neighbor, it can call their son or daughter, it can call the ambulance. So there's always something there for them if they need it. Next is bathroom safety. The 2 highest places for accidents in a patient's home, number 1 is the bathroom, number 2 is the kitchen. So it's very important that when you're in the bathroom with a patient, you look around and make sure that if there's a mat in their tub, make sure that it's non-skid. Making sure that if there's slippery surfaces and they got a throw rug, make sure that that rug has the rubber bottom on it so that it's not going to just fly out from underneath them when they step on it. If there's grab bars in there, make sure they use them. If they don't have grab bars, suggest them. Making sure that the water temperature is what it's supposed to be so that it doesn't burn anyone. And letter E talks about personal safety. This is important for you as well. We have a workplace violence policy. I'm not going to read it word for word. When you're in a patient's home and there's a safety concern outside of the home, you stay in the house. That's why we are responsible to locking the doors when we're in a patient's home, correct? That's for your safety as well, not just for the patient. There's some places we go into, they're a little iffy. They have higher crime rates than other parts of Fayette County or Greene County or Washington, Westmoreland County where we're located. Make sure the door's locked. Make sure you're looking around for your surroundings. And, if you see someone walking down this side of the road, go over to the other side of the road, walk across. Keep your car keys in your hand. You can actually use those as a weapon. There's a lot of things you can do to help protect yourself, to help protect your patient. If you walk into a house and you see something's wrong in the house, get out. Go to the nearest phone and call. Go to a neighbor's house, go to a payphone. Go to a gas station. Letter F. What we want you to do is to always be observant, always be assessing the patient's and the patient's family's compliance to safety when you're in the home. Not only that, I want you to be able to teach them on safety or re-instruct them. You might have told them last week, about leaving knives lay around on their bed. But you go in again, and I've had this happen. You go in again, there's a knife laying on the bed. You have to remind them. You got to keep telling them. Sometimes they're like kids. You got to tell them 10 times before it finally sinks in. And G, the refusal by a client or a caregiver to adapt the environment to provide a safe working environment for Twin Oaks Home Care employees. may result in Twin Oaks Home Care notifying the patient or caregiver of the inability to continue to serve them, which means we can actually stop providing services for someone, and we've done it, if they don't provide a safe place for you to work. Everybody knows that. Okay. And then it says that the appropriate referrals will be made. That means, if there's a problem in a patient's home, a problem with safety, we can get a hold of the care manager, we can get a hold of the doctor, we can even get a hold of protective services and have them step in. If the family or the patient won't change or are unwilling to change, well, there's other things we can try to improve it. After we've tried, if there is no improvement, then we have to discharge them from our agency, because I don't want to put you in a position where you're going to get hurt, or that there's you feel threatened when you're in there working. Very important. Number 3, bottom of the first page, Workplace Safety Committee. You need to know that we do have a Workplace Safety Committee, that we do meet monthly. We review all the patient's safety information and evaluation forms. We discuss safety concerns, and we plan appropriate safety interventions. And what our goal is to reduce and eliminate all workplace injuries. And we've went, and I've told you this before, we went from 24 injuries in a year down to we had 1 injury last year. I think the Workplace Safety Committee has done an excellent job in eliminating potential hazards in patients' homes. Our goal is to have 0 injuries a year for 2009. Page 2, after hours on call. We've talked about this before. I just want to tell you again, when you call in after hours, either call the Uniontown number if you're local, or you call the toll-free number. Don't call the cell phone also, because all 3 of those numbers ring at the same place. The other thing I'd like for you to consider, if you're sick and it's the middle of the night, your shift doesn't start till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, try to wait till 6 a.m. or after 6 a.m. to call. Don't call at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Because whoever has the phones, they're sleeping. They're not going to get a hold of another employee at 3 o'clock in the morning to cover you. So I just ask that you be courteous in that respect. It's the middle of the night. It's after 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, our policy states we need an 8-hour notice. Well, guess what? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're not going to get an 8-hour notice anyway. So try to wait till after 6 a.m., between 6 and 7 a.m., and then give us a call at that time, because then we're already up in the morning. We're getting ready to go into the office. Number 5, a couple new forms. The first new form replaces the Twin Oaks property form. You have that as attached. Should be the next one on the table on. It's called the Employee Agreement Form. Again, I'm not going to read this word for word, but what I'm going to touch on is the points. There's 3 points. First point is the confidentiality. That means everything that happens here within this agency and all the information that you get is strictly confidential. That's a federal law. And if you don't follow that federal law, you can be held liable for it, and they can and will press criminal charges against you. You need to know that. You can't say, Jim never told me I couldn't disclose this information, because Jim did tell you. Number 2, there's a non-competition clause now that we need to initiate. It's also for insurance purposes. What it means is that you yourself cannot go and start a Twin Oaks home care company or any other type of private duty agency company on your own within a certain period of time. If you do that, then there's a penalty associated with that. Also, in this clause is if a patient or family member says, hey, you've been working for Twin Oaks for a while now, why don't you just come work for us privately, we'll pay you under the table. We've never had that incorporated where you couldn't do that. It's now incorporated. It's in black and white. If there is, there's a penalty. There's a 30-day penalty times 6 hours a day. If you as a Twin Oaks employee go into a Twin Oaks patient's home and provide services, you could be held liable for that. And it's a 30-day penalty, financial penalty. And number 3, it talks about the property of Twin Oaks Home Care. There's a lot of things that we have to give our employees. There's DVDs, CDs, there's the photo ID badges. There are patient books that we give to supervisors. Anytime that an employee's position is either terminated or suspended, or if you were to put a notice in, that information that you have must be returned immediately. If it's not, we would have to go through judicial process to obtain that, and we would do that. That's part of protecting our patients, first of all. Second of all, it also says that you would not receive your final pay until that information is returned to us. So it's that important that we get it. And just so you know, we have not had a problem with this. We have to have it in black and white, but we don't have a problem with this. Anytime anyone's ever quit before, we've had it normally within the week, and we understand if someone's out of town and got to get back in. Okay, next, number 5B. Twin Oaks Home Care is an equal opportunity employer. So if you turn to the next handout, you'll see the equal opportunity employer. You'll see that our policy, where we abide by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We are also in accordance with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. We also abide by the Age Discrimination Act of 1975. And we follow the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1992. So, now everyone knows, yes, Twin Oaks does this. It's my responsibility to make everyone aware of that. That's part of the licensing. So now you're aware of that. You do need to sign this form. This will be kept in your employee file. And what that'll say is, yes, you were made aware of this, and then you're going to return that to us. You're also going to sign the form before that, which is the confidentiality, property, and non-competition clause. And you're going to return that. That'll also be kept in your file. Next on the list is number 6. Number 6 talks about our workers' compensation. And what you need to know is your rights under workers' compensation issues. And because we did change our workers' compensation insurance from SWIFT to ABI International, you have to sign this one as well. What this one here says is that you understand your rights under the workers' compensation law. Here's the thing. You already signed this before, but you signed it for a different company. You signed it for SWIFT. It hasn't changed. What you're going to sign again for today is the fact that we did switch companies to ABI, so all you're doing is signing that, yes, you've been notified of the rules under the workers' compensation. Number 7, state licensing. Just to give you a quick update, as of April 2009, I am on page 663 out of 905 on our policies. The state licensing still has not went into law yet. It has not been signed into law. Once it does, we have 2 years from that date to become 100% compliant. Right now, we're still functioning as if we are licensed. We are 99% compliant. The only thing I need to do is finish the 300 pages of policies. And all it is everything that we're already doing. It just has to be written down, so that when the surveyors come in, the state surveyors come in, that they have all of our information is accurate as to what the care and services that we're providing. Number 8, this is for insurance purposes as well. Every spring I have to tell you about our sexual harassment policy. What you need to understand is that no form of sexual harassment is tolerated by Twin Oaks Home Care. This includes physical and verbal sexual harassment, as well as sexual innuendos or tasteless or immoral jokes. Twin Oaks will follow the disciplinary process depending upon the severity of the infraction. Termination may be immediate if the form of sexual harassment is indicated, and will be determined by the management of Twin Oaks Home Care. Again, this is part of us keeping our employees safe. when they're working out in patients' homes, or if you're at any of the office functions. Number 9, infection control. One of the things that our safety committee decided to help employees stay safer in patients' homes would be for all the supervisors to carry an extra 2 boxes of gloves with them at all times. So we just started doing this about a month or 2 ago. And what will happen is if you're out in a patient's home and you run out of gloves, you use the last glove, well, you might have a couple hours left of your shift, and you may need to use some more gloves while you're there. Supervisors who will be out in the fields, normally during the business work days, will carry additional 2 boxes of glove on them. That way, if you're in a home, if there's a problem, you need one, we can give them a call and they can run a box of gloves over to you. And then while they're there, they can do an on-site evaluation. That way they get paid. That way they're not just doing things and not getting paid for. Everybody that does something at Twin Oaks Home Care gets paid for doing everything that they do. And number 10, the 2009 employee pay calendar. Everyone should have received this in the mail. That's the last handout. The workers' compensation information, I need you to sign that at the bottom as well, the next to the last handout. The pay calendar for 2009, there's 3 columns. There's a pay period beginning column, there's a pay period ending column, and then there's the actual date that you get paid on, where the money is placed directly into your account. If you have any questions regarding this, you can also see us at the end of the meeting. And anyone that needs their TBs done, I will see you directly after this as well. Thank you and have a great day.